What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles in the Great League Remix Cup featuring Shadow Zapdos running Zap Cannon. Now a few people asked me recently to feature Emolga since it's a solid core breaker for the current meta, and it was also featured in the recent Global Go Fest, but I felt like I needed something else on top of that to provide that extra spark for a video, so I made it into an ABB style team with Berserker in the lead and Shadow Zapdos with that Zap Cannon as the closer. So with that being said, let's just get straight into the question of the day. What has been the most fun Pokemon you've used in the Great League Remix Cup? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so heading into the first battle, Berserker into Shadow Hypno. So this is a Great League matchup for us. The opponent's going to say swap into Greedent. Now we don't have a strong answer, so I'm actually just going to stay in initially, go straight for the close combat, grab a shield from the opponent, and then swap into my Emolga. Now I'm not going to shield the first move. The opponent actually goes for a Trailblaze, which is resisted, but it is going to boost up their attack. So now this Body Slam, which I assume they're going to throw, is going to do a lot more damage. It does actually a ton of damage there, but that's fine. We can still tank it, go for an Acrobatics. They still can't go for a Mud Shot farm down, so Acrobatics also doing big damage, and the opponent over farms, which is perfect for me. We go for the Discharge. Discharge grabs the final shield from the opponent, and at this point you guys already know what's going down. I'm gonna no shield, come in with my Shadow Zapdos, and shout out to King IV because this is like one of his catchphrases that he'll say, but when shields are down, Shadow Zapdos absolutely goes to town here, and you're gonna see as the opponent comes back in with the Shadow Hypno, we are firing off the Zap Cannon. Zap Cannon gets the one shot up against the bulky Shadow Hypno. They come in with double, and we make a pretty unnecessary catch here, but we catch a resisted Body Slam onto our Berserker, and at this point the opponent is going to have to throw a charge move to get rid of us, but they're not throwing. Instead they're going to go for a full farm down. Close combat does huge damage. We get the resisted Shadow Claw farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Into next game we see Typhlosion in the lead. Now we don't have a good answer to fire types at all, so that is one of the biggest issues for this team. We're going to swap into a Emolga, and the opponent comes in with a Goodra. So going straight for the Acrobatics, dealing big damage, and the opponent is going to have to throw to take us out here, so that's fine with me. Gonna no shield of course. Arcatel will be taking us out. Possibly could have shielded and then fought for switch advantage, but that's not really going to help me that much. Instead I'd rather come in with the Berserker, get the Shadow Claw farm down, and then I'm only 2 Shadow Claws away from a close combat, so gonna go for it straight away. Close combat, grabs the shield, and then here this is something really strange, but I don't know where the damage went from that Incinerate. From that Incinerate, either it should have landed on Berserker and we were double debuffed to our defense, so we would be way lower than what we can see right now, or it should have at least transferred to our Zapdos, but you can see these Incinerates are absolutely chunking up against the Zapdos, so it definitely didn't transfer to the Zapdos, and in the end it doesn't really matter because we're still going to come out with a Drill Peck loaded here, and it doesn't really matter how much HP the Berserker has, but it was just a very strange thing, and I have heard about people talking about this before. I don't think I've noticed it before, but either way, Drill Peck takes out Typhlosion, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Into next game, see Jellicent in the lead. So we've got a team that is actually very good up against Jellicent. They're going to say swap into a Alolan Ninetales. Now I didn't realize this at the time, but this is going to be the Rise to the Occasion team with Jellicent, Alolan Ninetales, and Registeel. I believe he hit Legend with this team, so as is typical with any sort of content creator that hits Legend pretty early in the season with a team and promotes it on their channel, a lot of people are going to copy that. But we go for the close combat since we are boosted in our attack. They're now going to come back in with Jellicent, and they throw on CMP. Big mistake here. We go for the Trailblaze, and we grab the final shield. So at this point, things are looking great here. Obviously at this point, I didn't know that they did have a Registeel in the back, but it doesn't really matter. The opponent is just going to concede the match at the sight of my Shadow Zapdos, and I'm able to take that game. So I guess at that point, I still didn't really know if they had a Registeel in the back or not because I didn't see it. But into the next battle, again, another Incinerate user, although this time very spicy from the opponent running Rapidash, which is cool to see. We're going to go for the Acrobatics, and this time they actually shield. So we're committing to another Acrobatics, and we don't get there in time. So that is really bad for me, because now we're going to come in with Berserker. I'm going to have to throw a charge move, and of course, when I go for a close combat, that's going to double debuff my defense. So going to let the first move go through here. At this point, I think I'm also... no, I'm actually going to shield this. I kind of have to shield here. We're now going to overfarm. I'm going to farm 2 near back-to-back close combat, so that way, of course, if they do let this go through, I only need 1 more Shadow Claw to make it to another close combat up against the Rapidash, which I assume is going to come back in, and of course, the Incinerate damage should now take us out, but that's fine. Close combat grabs the final shield from the opponent, but at this point, I had kind of lost track of their energy, so I'm going to shield this. I thought that they'd throw basically straight away, so I was going to go for 4 Thunder Shocks there, but I just miscounted the energy, and it's pretty poor because, of course, it's very easy to count Incinerates because they are very slow, but it happens sometimes, so GG's to that opponent there. Into next game, I think this might be the Yonkers team with a load of Ninetales, Poliwrath, and Swampert, so I'm in a very good situation here, just going to no-shield. The opponent is now going to swap into Swampert, and they must just not know about the Trailblaze coverage because we're full sending it, and we one-shot the Swampert, and at this point the opponent is just going to concede the match there, so clearly didn't know about the grass coverage on Berserker, and we're able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Internet's going to see Empoleon in the lead now. I probably should swap out of this matchup here. Typically, Empoleon is going to be paired with like 2 Dragon-type Pokemon, so it probably would be a good idea to swap into one of my Electric types and maybe just bait out that Dragon, so that way we can still have our Berserker for it in the back. But actually, we swap at the same time, and they come in with Poliwrath. Now, I wasn't certain Discharge would KO, so I go for the Acrobatics, and the opponent ends up shielding anyway, so... yeah, bit awkward. I'm going to no-shield. They go for an Icy Wind. I thought I'd live that comfortably enough to make it to another move, but turns out I'm wrong, so they get a very nice farm down there. We're going to come in with the Shadow Zapdos, and obviously they're going to go for another Icy Wind here, but we will be able to massively overfarm, and even with a debuff to our attack, Drillpeck will easily KO. The opponent goes for a catch there, so they swap into Empoleon, and this is massive overkill, so I go for an undercharge. It still KOs, despite being debuffed, and of course going for just a nice there, but that's fine with me. We come in with Berserker, and at this point the opponent's going to go for an Icy Wind, which was very strange. Don't know why they didn't go for the Scald there, and that's going to allow me to go for a close combat, and they've got Typhlosion in the back, so close combat does big damage, and we are 2 Thunder Shocks away from a Drillpeck, so we barely get there in time. Drillpeck will of course take up the Typhlosion, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Internet's going to see Shadow Quagsire in the lead. So of course, we have one-shot a Swampert already in this video, but in the lead, especially if I shield the first move, it's probably quite likely that the opponent's going to go and shield that up. But actually, no, they're going to swap and make a catch, a very nice catch as well, into their Mantine. So what I could do is swap out straight away, but I'm thinking they're probably going to run Ice Beam. So actually, I'm going to build up a ton of energy on my Berserker first, as they go for the Ice Beam, and now we swap into a Mulga, and I'm just going to commit to a full Thunder Shock farm down, if I remember how to speak there. I'm going to no shield. I figured Ice Beam is not going to quite take us out there, but I didn't expect that to be a simultaneous KO, and we lose all the energy there, and I've pretty much just thrown the game away. We do have a good matchup here up against the Machamp, but we are down a shield, and by the time they make it to back-to-back cross chops, Shadow Zapdos is so classy that even resisted counters and a cross chop will definitely take us out. But the opponent is going to throw on CMP, so that's good news for me. Drillpeck grabs the final shield, and this one I'm just going to no-shield this. The opponent goes for a cross chop, taking us out. I realized they were going to throw straight away, so we go for the extra Shadow Claw first, and then I thought the opponent would swap into their Quagsire, so I go for a slight overfarm here. Unfortunately, I was incorrect, so Trailblaze takes them out, but because we took the damage there from that counter, unfortunately one mod shot takes us out there, and we end up losing that game. But GG's to up over there. Internet's going to see Mantine in the lead. So once again, we've got 2 better answers in the back, but I'm just going to stay in. And again, the opponent's safe swapping into their Mud Boy. So we go for the Trailblaze. Trailblaze actually does get shielded this time around, which is unfortunate. I'm definitely also going to shield. I've got such a significant energy advantage that I will be making it to another Trailblaze. I'm going to throw here on the CMB tie. And let's see, does the opponent want to double shield? The answer is no. We deal big damage there, taking out the Quagsire. And they come in with a Steelix. Now, we're running Trailblaze, but we're also running close combat. We're double boosted. Close combat gets the one shot up against the Steelix, and that was pretty good as well because of course my backline is going to be very weak to Steelix. And now at this point we're going for another Trailblaze, dealing huge damage. We swap into Shadow Zapdos. I'm able to Thunder Shock, farm down the Mantine, and take that game. So GG's top over there. Internet's going to see Shadow Cradily in the lead. So this is a great lead matchup for us. Of course, going to resist everything aside from Bulldoze. But, I mean, who's going to be running Bulldoze on a Shadow Cradily? We're going to no-shield the first move as they go for a Rock Slide. And here we're going to overfarm as much as we can. And then we get the stutter lag. And that is really frustrating. I know technically we could still live the next Rock Slide there. But This is an ABB style team, and in a positive lead, I do want to preserve as much health as I can on my lead matchup. And unfortunately, using that shield there has kind of really set me back. I didn't need to use that shield. I didn't want to use that shield, but the game forced it into my hands there. So now things aren't looking too good for us. They're going to go for a Thunder Punch bait, which is a bit unfortunate. I'm just going to go for a Discharge here, as I'm probably going to grab a shield anyways. And Discharge does grab a shield, and they're going to throw immediately. Now, this means that I will be able to come in with my Shadow Zapdos, and assuming I win CMP, I will be able to get rid of the Typhlosion here, and we do win CMP. But look at the Incinerate damage there. 2 Incinerates gets us into the deep yellow health range already. They come in with a Mantine, and if I was running the Thunderbolt, I would make it to the charge move, but unfortunately I'm not. I'm running Zap Cannon. I don't think Drill Peck will get the KO, but if we had a shield there, I would have been absolutely fine. So really frustrating that I had to use a shield up against that Credilli, and inevitably that did end up losing me the game there, which is very frustrating. But once again, into next game, another Mud Boy swapping into Berserker. I don't know if like people just have forgotten about it, or if they, I don't know, like if they're calling a bait. I really have no clue, but I'm just going to play it safe, use my shield there, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. They're going to come in with a Poliwrath, so we're going to swap into a Mulga. I'm just going for the Discharge because this time I'm actually slightly behind on energy, so there's no point going for acrobatics there. I want to throw before they make it to the Icy Wind. At this point, I'm happy to let Emolga go down, but the opponent baits with a power-up punch. Absolutely fine with me. We can go for another Discharge here. Probably going to grab the final shield from the opponent, and it does grab that final shield. And at this point, the opponent is going to overfarm so much that actually I'm thinking, you know what, I might as well shield this. They're going to debuff my attack with an Icy Wind, but I'm guaranteed to land a super effective Discharge. They do make a catch onto the Togetic, but that's fine. You see, they are running Fairy Wind, so looks like they're trying to go for a farm down. They're not able to do so. They go for an Ancient Power, and at this point, we're going to come in with the Shadow Zapdos. I should be able to live anything they throw here. The opponent going to go for an Ancient Power, and that does big damage, but not enough damage. We can just bank a Drill Peck, swap into Berserker, and honestly, I kind of forgotten that I had all this loaded energy already, so we didn't need the Drill Peck on the Zapdos, as a Trailblaze takes out the Poliwrath, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there, Internet is going to see Giratina Origin form, so this is a pretty decent lead matchup for us. Typically though, Berserker would run Foul Play, but once again, another opponent swapping into their Mud Boy, and again, they're not going to shield that, so very strange decisions from these opponents, but I'm just going to swap into my Emolga, catch the Mud Bomb, and I'm going to get quite a nice farm down as well. They do make it to another charge move, but again, just going to be a resistant Mud Bomb, so I'm going to no shield, doesn't do much damage here, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. They're going to come in with a Shadow Magnezone. Now, this is actually one of the worst things we could see here, because they're going to get a huge farm down, and they can tank these discharges. Well, actually not that well, but they can tank them. I'm going to go for a second discharge, and the opponent's actually going to use a shield here. So at this point, I'm thinking they're probably just going to blind throw a Mirror Shot, but even if they don't, I think coming in with my Zapdos is the right play here. So Mirror Shot is going to be resisted, doesn't drop my attack, which is also great. At this point, probably going to be another Mirror Shot, but I'm not going to take any risks this time around. Going to use my shield, and again, they don't get the debuff. So despite being double resisted here, Drill Peck should be enough to get the KO, and we're going to swap immediately into Berserker. I'm calling a bait here, and the opponent is going to go for an Ominous Wind bait, which is huge for me. We're going for the Trailblaze. Of course, both moves are resisted, and the opponent is going to call that we didn't have anything to throw up against the Giratina. We needed the shield there because, of course, Drill Peck would easily KO from that range. So well played by the opponent, and GG's to that opponent there. Internet's going to see Toxapex in the lead, so this is fine with us. Again, got 2 electric types in the back. I'm actually going to stay in for quite a while just because we are resisting, well, actually double resisting the poison jab damage. We then swap into Emolga, and unfortunately for the opponent, they swap at the exact same time, but they swap into Horlucha, so going straight for the discharge. Discharge actually doesn't quite get the KO, but that's fine. I'm going to resist a flying press, so I'm going to let it go through, but actually that does quite a lot of damage there. They come in with a Razor Leaf Tropius, and this is also fine. I'm actually not going to make it to an acrobatics, but the opponent uses their first shield anyways. So now we can just come in with the Shadow Zapdos, and this game is wrapped up right now. We can just shield this up, play it safe, they go for a Leaf Blade. All moves are resisted, but Zapdos is of course very classy. We're now going to go for the Drill Peck. Drill Peck does big damage. We're going to bank another Drill Peck, swap into Berserker, get the snipe with the Shadow Claws, and you can see already the task has been updated in the bottom right hand screen of the bottom right hand side of the screen. What the hell's going on with my talking here? And we're able to take that game. Right, into the next game, and this might be the Rise to the Occasion team once again, but once again, I don't think I'm aware of it yet. I haven't watched this video, so apologies, Rise, for not watching your video straight away. But we are going to go for a Trailblaze there. I'm going to shield this up as they bait with a Surf, which is not ideal, but then they swap into their load of Ninetales, which is very strange. Yeah, I don't really know why they did this, and this is actually really good for me because my backline is very weak to the load of Ninetales, but they can somewhat handle Registeel, so we go for the close combat, we get the KO. And they're going to come back in with the Jellicent, so we're going to bank a close combat swap into my Emolga, and at this point I'm just going to no shield. They go for the Shadow Ball, dealing decent damage there, but that's absolutely fine, and I'm now going to go for a Discharge, throwing pretty much straight away. Discharge goes unshielded, they come in with the Registeel. I'm going to overfarm as much as I can here. I'm hoping to make it to back-to-back discharges, but let's see. We go for the first one, Discharge is no shielded. They kind of have to no shield the next one as well, because we do have a close combat loaded, so they are going to let that go through. And now this is just game over. They're not going to be able to lock on farm down my Berserker, so we're going to come in with it straight away, go for the close combat, and this will force the final shield. They're not going to be able to lock on farm me down, so they will have to throw here, and then we can just come in with our Zapdos, and we should be able to make it to a Drill Peck in time. And even though it is resisted damage, Drill Peck will of course KO a Registeel from this range, so we throw it straight away, taking out the Registeel, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Into next game, we see Swampert in the lead now. We've seen plenty of Mud Boys swapping into our Berserker, but even on energy, it's actually not that great of a matchup for us, especially up against Swampert, where those Hydro Cannons are going to deal huge damage there. But we swap into a Emolga, we bait out a Shadow Typhlosion, and I did mention at the start of the video, whilst we haven't really had too many problems with Typhlosion, we don't really have an answer to it at all with this team. So you can see these Incinerates are absolutely chunking. We're able to go for a full Incinerate farm down, which certainly is not ideal. But we're going to come in with the Berserker, and I'm just going to fully sacrifice it here. I'm expecting the opponent to bait, and the opponent is going to go for a bait with the Thunder Punch. And then they swap into the Swampert. I was hoping I could make it to a Trailblaze, but I'm just barely not able to do so. I can't afford to shield there. Typhlosion still has some energy, so we're going to come in with the Shadow Zapdos. I'm definitely just going to shield this one up, and then I will overfarm as much as I physically can, going for a Drill Peck on the CMP type. I'm hoping this is enough damage to get the KO, and Drill Peck does take out the Swampert. They come in with an Obstagoon, and this is okay with us because we can just go and full send a Zap Cannon, and from pretty much full health, Zap Cannon gets the one shot, but unfortunately Typhlosion already has the charge we've loaded, and even a Thunder Punch from this range takes out the very glassy Shadow Zapdos, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG's to opponent there. Into next game, we see a load of Ninetales in the lead once again, so we are just going to no shield here. I'm going to hold on to the energy just in case the opponent, for whatever reason, goes into another Mud Boy, but we're going to go for a Trailblaze here, and Trailblaze, of course, not going to do that much damage. Honestly, it's pretty unlikely that we're going to run Iron Head, so for the opponent, it probably makes sense for them not to shield there, which they didn't. We go for a close combat, get the KO, and they swap into a Shadow Poliwrath, and they do have a Shadow Swampert in the back, so we're just full sending the Acrobatics right now. Acrobatics gets the one shot up against the Swampert, and this is already game over right now. Of course, they don't know I've got Zapdos in the back, but once they see it, they're probably just going to concede the match here. So we go for the Discharge. I'm going to no shield this. The opponent goes for an Icy Wind, taking us out there, but that's fine. We can come in with the Zapdos, and the opponent is actually playing this out here, so I don't know what their plan here is. I guess going for the potential lag win condition of me just not being able to attack, but they're going to go for a Power Punch bait here, so they are really playing this out, thinking they're going to outpace us, but unfortunately for them, Zapdos, very spammy, gets to another Drill Peck, gets the KO up against the Poliwrath, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Into next, going to see a Bomber Snow in the lead, so this is a great lead matchup for us, and definitely where we want to see it. Of course, with energy, then our two back Pokemon can do fairly well into it, but of course, I mean, Berserk is just going to resist everything they can possibly throw, and we've got close combat to hit for super effective damage. But we swap into our Emolga, we're going to throw on the CMP type, or at least should have been a CMP type if they threw straight away, going for a Discharge, and they actually overfarm here, and this is huge for me. Discharge number 2 is going to grab the final shield from the opponent, so once again, just going to trust in both my shields and a Shadow Zapdos. I mean, we've also got Berserker as well, so So we're not going to completely rely on the Shadow Zapdos, but we're going to come in here. I'm just going to shield this, of course. I know it's going to be a Poison Fang. Poison Fang's not going to do huge damage, but I can now just go for a, well, farm up to back-to-back Drill Pecks here, throwing the first one. From this range, of course, this will KO. And if they come back in with a Bomber Snow, I'm just going to throw straight away. There's no point over farming. Drill Peck gets the one-shot, and they've got a Alolan Raichu in the back, so we can just swap straight into Berserker. And at this point, I think the opponent has just rage quit the app here, as you can see, we are lagging, and eventually Trailblaze does connect. We can go for the Shadow Claw farm down, taking out the Raichu, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into next, we see Shadow Dragonair in the lead. So this is a little bit awkward for us, because if I was running Foul Play, of course, I would just go straight for the Foul Play, and I could CMP on them as well. But because I'm running Trailblaze in close combat, I don't want to drop my defense yet, but it does mean they will outpace me to the second charge move. So we go for a Trailblaze there, boosting up our attack, and now we're going for the close combat. I would prefer if they just no-shield this, but they are going to shield. We're going to swap into a Mulga, and the opponent comes in with a Ferrothorn. So this is absolutely fine with me. Going to no-shield this. This is just going to be a Power Whip as well, so I'm not going to do an awful lot of damage here. We're going to go for one Thunder Shock, go for an Acrobatics, and Acrobatics is going to do big damage to the Ferrothorn. We're actually going to be able to make it to another Acrobatics, but I don't think this is the right play. I think I'd probably prefer not to take out the Ferrothorn here, so maybe you should have just gone for a Discharge, allow them to KO me with a Power Whip, and then get a huge farm down with the Zapdos, because now, unfortunately, this Dragonair has so much energy. I'm actually going to shield this just to force them to throw their next move straight away, but this is not a great position for me to be in. So you can see Aquatel takes out the Berserker. We come in with the Zapdos, and if we just got an energy advantage with our Zapdos here, I think we'd be fine. But Drill Peck actually doesn't KO there, so maybe not. Maybe we would have lost anyways. But anyways, we're going to see a Thunder Punch, never mind, a Blast Bird coming through, taking out the Zapdos, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG's to the opponent there. Into next, going to see Toxapex in the lead once again. So once again, I'm just going to stay in, as of course I am double resisting the Poison Jab damage. Eventually, after they throw, I will swap into my Emolga, and the opponent goes for a Brine. We swap into Emolga, and the opponent's going to stay in with Toxapex. So when our opponent stays in a bad matchup, it pretty much implies that they're double weak to a certain Pokemon, or maybe even triple weak, because they could swap out of this matchup if they wanted to. So we're going to see the opponent comes in with Gligar, and they realize, of course, they needed to chip first, because Gligar, whilst yes, it is going to resist the electric type damage, we actually resist everything coming from a Gligar, as we are flying, so Dig is going to be resisted, and of course we are electric, so the Aerial Ace will also be resisted. So it made sense for them to stay in with the Toxapex. We can now just come in with Berserker, go straight for a Trailblaze. Trailblaze goes unshielded by the opponent, and they come in with a Greninja, so I'm going straight for the close combat here, and then I will swap straight away into my Shadow Zapdos, and this should be game over. We should be able to outpace them. Two back-to-back charge moves here. Going to shield the first move as the opponent goes for a Hydro Cannon. If they baited with a Night Slash, honestly, it might be slightly awkward here, but they're not baiting. So Drill Peck grabs the final shield. They're at the next move here. Of course, we're just going to play it safe. Use the shield here, and they do full send the Hydro Cannon once again. We can now go for Drill Peck, and this will, of course, take up Greninja from this range. And Toxapex is very low. We can just go for a full Thunder Shock farm down, taking out the Toxapex, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Into next game, another Jellicent in the lead. So probably going to be the Rise to the Occasion team once again. I think at this point I probably have clocked on and realised that it will be a load of Ninetales and Registeel in the back. So we go for a Trailblaze. They're going to use their shield there. And I might try and swap and try and bait out the Alolan Ninetales at some point as well. So they go for a Surf there. A bit unfortunate, but we can tank the next Surf. No problem whatsoever. And now I'm going to swap into the Emolga, and the opponent actually comes in with Registeel, which isn't really ideal, because I would have preferred if they came in with the Alolan Ninetales here. But we're going to go for a Discharge. Discharge really doesn't do much damage. We do make it to a second Discharge, but it's, once again, not going to do much damage either. We don't have an awful lot of fast move pressure with this team, so Berserker can't really come in and get the Shadow Claw farm down. They go for Zap Cannon, and that actually doesn't quite take us out there. And that is quite bad, because of course they get even more energy with the lock-ons as they farm me down. So we're going to come in with the Shadow Zapdos, and you can see we're not getting a farm down here. So I'm going to shield this as the opponent goes for a Zap Cannon. Zap Cannon does drop my attack, but I'm hoping because they drop my attack here, they're not going to respect the damage. So we full send a Zap Cannon, but the opponent does shield. And then we swap here. We don't get a move through, which is very awkward, because Weather Ball doesn't quite take us out there. But if we got a Shadow Claw through, I would have at least made it to a close combat, and close combat would have done big damage. But unfortunately, we didn't get there. So Weather Ball easily takes out the Zapdos, and we do unfortunately lose that game. So GG's to opponent there. Into next game, we see Shadow Quagsire in the lead. So once again, we have been able to take quite a few Quagsire and Swampert off guard with a Trailblaze, but usually that's when they're swapping it in. In the lead, we haven't landed one yet, so we're going to go for the Trailblaze here. Trailblaze is going to be shielded, but we've seen they're running Aqua Tail. It's quite unlikely that they're running Aqua Tail and Mud Bomb, so I'm going to no-shield this, and it is another Aqua Tail, but the opponent's going to swap and make a catch onto Mandibuzz, but this doesn't matter. It's still neutral damage, and we were boosted, so that does pretty nice damage there as well. And what it means is that we can come in with a Molga, and I will only have to throw one discharge to get the KO. So they go for a Dark Pulse here. I can actually farm up to nearly 100 energy, go for a discharge on the CMP type with the next Dark Pulse, and the opponent lets that go through. We're just one Thunder Shock away from an Acrobatics, so we're going to throw it straight away, taking out the Shadow Quagsire, and again they've got a Registeel in the back, so things are looking pretty good for us. We can just go straight for the discharge here. Discharge is going to be no shielded once again by the opponent, and they're going to throw pretty much straight away as they go for a Focus Blast eventually. That actually doesn't KO, and I don't know if they've just given up here or if they've lagged out of the match, but either way, I've got an opportunity to throw Zap Cannon, so I'm going to take it. We go for the Zap Cannon, and Zap Cannon actually gets shielded as the opponent makes it back into the game here, so that was kind of strange, but yeah, we would have won this game anyways, but I kept it in anyways. But here we go for the Drill Peck, we get the Thunder Shock farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.